morning. Good morning. It's an absolute pleasure and privilege to be here and see such an incredible initiative to bring attention to artificial intelligence. My name's Charli Mьюrhead. I'm the founder of Cognition X, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why we're focused on this space, give you a little bit of the history of AI, and talk to some examples, and then really end with some recommendations as to the things that are important to think about. And it's great to hear Minta talk earlier about ethics in particular. Ethics is going to be a big area here. So just as a quick bit of background, Cognition X was started 2 years ago. It's actually my 7th startup. I started my first company when I was 21 in the UK in 1996. And in 96, there was almost no infrastructure for technology startups. It was pre the dot-com boom. And the only place as a 21-year-old that we could rent was the basement of a funeral parlor in the UK, where you could literally hear them sawing coffins upstairs. And not like the ecosystem we have today all over the world. And I must have pitched 100 investors, and every single one of them said no. And I was only trying to raise £100,000. Finally, number 101, I met a woman who's an incredible woman called Esther Dyson, who said yes, and then a guy called Herman Hauser, who said yes, and we were finally off. Now, wind forward 4 years, much to the regret of the 100 investors who said no, we did an IPO on the NASDAQ and the London Stock Exchange for over $1 billion. And the company was 120 people. I was 25 years old, and I was still the youngest employee in the company. So it was an incredible journey. But having had some incredible highs like that, I have to say there is nothing more exciting than what's taking place in artificial intelligence right now. It's changing absolutely everything, not just the way we're going to live and work, but the way we can engage around topics like marketing. And it raises huge questions that we need to reflect on and answer to ensure that we get this right. So we started Cognition X, myself and my co-founder Tabitha, and our vision was to bring clarity to what is an incredibly complex space, but also to ensure a responsible transition to this world of artificial intelligence. So just a quick history lesson. Some of you probably know these facts already, but Asimov came up with this set of rules as a science fiction writer in 1941. That wasn't really the birth of artificial intelligence. Alan Turing famously came up with the Turing test in 1950. In the 1960s, Frank Rosenblatt came up with the concept of a neural network and the concept of a perceptron. And really that was the birth of the thinking around AI. Now, some of you will recognize this photo up here when Garry Kasparov was finally beaten by IBM's Deep Blue computer. And again, some people don't really consider that to be true AI. But as we move forward into 2005, the very first autonomous car drove around the desert. And that really, in modern AI, is considered to be the start of the revolution. A few other key things happen. Now, if you look at these lines, there's a green line and a blue line. The green line is really representing the search for general intelligence. General intelligence is when the computer can essentially solve a problem without supervision and can apply itself to any problem. And actually, we're making progress there. I'll come back to it. But there's another area, which is narrow intelligence, which is this bottom blue line, and that's the area that really has started to take off. And in 2006, Amazon launched its cloud services. In 2011, Siri came through, and then we've all seen the Amazon Alexa product. During that period, a very important company in the UK was bought called DeepMind. And DeepMind continues to innovate in general intelligence, but it's still a long way off being ready for prime time. And even the much publicized AlphaGo computer, which plays the Go game better than any player, any human player in the world today, is really a very narrow piece of technology. It only knows how to do one thing well, and that's play the game of Go. Now, artificial intelligence is making its way into the corporate world. This is a chart from Bloomberg, and it's the number of references to artificial intelligence over the last few quarters, and it's grown by 400%. Alexa went from 0 to 11 million units available in homes in just 12 months, which is a staggering pace of introduction of a new technology. But having said all of that, this survey here on the right shows that we think there are between 20 and 200 use cases or uses of AI in most enterprises, and 76% of companies are still just deploying one use of AI in their company. So although things are happening fast, they're also happening slow. Now, the world of AI has become very busy very quickly. In total use cases across industry, we're now tracking 1,000 different ways you can use artificial intelligence. And there are 10,000 AI products or products that claim to be AI out in the market. And we think of them as verticals and horizontals. I'm going to start with the horizontals. At the bottom layer here, we have things like processing and storage, which are the basic hosting services. The layer above that, we have data management. So think of that as databases, some in the cloud, some in your data center. And above that, you have the new battleground between the big tech companies, which is the machine learning layer. So all of that are the horizontal layers, and they can be applied to any vertical, whether it's retail or marketing, healthcare. At the top here, we have the individual verticals: logistics, healthcare, advertising and marketing, retail, financial services, HR, legal, insurance, and there are another 25 beyond these. And the reason it's so fragmented is, unlike traditional software, the products are separated not by the software, but by the data that they use to automate and provide this intelligence. So although you may use a similar bit of artificial intelligence software in retail as you would in financial services, because the data set that it's working on is completely different in many cases, you end up with two different product opportunities. And this obviously has made the world a very complex place to navigate. Now, why is this happening now? Well, the first thing is the availability of cheap cloud computing. I'm sure everybody's familiar with that. The second thing is the extraordinary growth in data. These mobile phones that we're all carrying and using today are constantly giving off information, but so are all the social networks and the online services and the online retailers that we're accessing. The third thing is the fact that the technology behind AI is almost all open source, which means it's actually freely available to get the raw algorithms on the web, and you can just download them. And finally, we now live in a world, unlike 1996 when I started that company, where global entrepreneurship is an absolute peak. And the combination of those four things has created this explosion. Now, what are the big use cases that we've seen success in? I'm going to just very quickly touch on four. Has anybody here driven a Tesla? One or two? So, obviously, 2005 is when they did the grand challenge across the desert. And so, you know, it was 12 years ago that the first autonomous car drove across a desert. Well, it actually didn't make it the whole way. 12 years later, you can buy a car in the retail market, take your hands off the wheel, and it will drive itself. And that is a staggering achievement, and it kind of happened while we blinked. So this is one huge case study, and that's going to continue to accelerate. A second one Minter talked about earlier is image classification. So whether it's for deciding what you should buy in a store or taking a photo of clothing that you want to match online, there are many, many examples there. In patient processing, one of our advisors, Riccardo Sabatini, and colleagues of his are now using artificial intelligence to permanently eradicate HIV by actually editing the genome and preventing it from ever attaching to a human, which is an extraordinary achievement. And other areas they're looking at are, permanently eradicating cancer as well. So this is a huge area of excitement. And algorithmic trading. There are a number of people who have built funds now where there are no human traders at all. Everything is being done through code. So where are we in the adoption cycle? The answer is it depends which industry you're in. And so here we have the classic innovator stage, early adopter, early majority, late majority, and the laggards. And AI, depending on industry, so professional services or retail or transportation and financial services, are at different points across this evolution. But we're well into the main market for many industries, especially the high-tech companies. I don't think anybody, whether it's Yandex or Google, all the high-tech companies are well ahead of the curve in using AI in almost everything that they do. So they're at the top. Financial services, trading, that's also very, very highly developed, and so is transportation. But media and retail are just going across this chasm, which is a famous term from Geoffrey Moore, and about to go into that very high growth mode. That's probably borne out pretty well by this chart. This shows the amount of money invested in each industry sector. And you can see number one, it's good news for all of us, is healthcare. Number two is horizontal applications, those lines I showed across the page. Cybersecurity, number three, but commerce and advertising and marketing are fourth and fifth in the investment stakes. And most of that investment is taking place in the US and China and Britain, India. And so it's fantastic to see an event here focused on artificial intelligence. In the application of marketing, we see already hundreds of different companies who have set up. And one area is in chatbots, so automating customer services. A second is product search and suggestion. The third is the automation of the whole advertising media buying process, so optimized programmatic advertising. Another big vertical is actually generative design, where the AI is writing marketing copy, or even in some cases writing music, and in the most advanced cases, creating videos based on what it thinks the customer is going to respond to without anybody shooting a video, so which we call generative design. So a huge number of companies already playing in these spaces, and then across the bottom is all the work around data insights and data collection. Now, just some quick case studies. Recent examples, so LOreal, and in many respects you think of this as actually quite a simple case study. They created a personalized gifting app. So on Facebook Messenger, it asked you a few questions about the gift you wanted to provide, what price bracket and so on, and to whom. And then it asked a few questions of the person you were sending the gift to, and as a result of that, you gave a personalized present, if you like. Now, the result of this was much, much higher engagement, 27 times, 2,700 times, higher engagement compared to marketing using email. When they surveyed people, 80% said they loved the process, and very importantly, in terms of data collection, 30% opted in and said it's okay if you create a profile on me and capture this information, which was crucial because that's information that can be used in future campaigns. A second example is Kia, the car company. Now this is really, I love this example, it's quite obscure. They filmed an advert with a famous actor wearing a certain pair of socks. And then they worked out who were the most influential online personalities to the audience they were trying to sell this car to. So they used customer data and the data around the influencers to pick out 100 influencers. They then got the influencers, like this lady on the right here, to wear the socks and post something online, and they doubled the amount of engagement and sales compared to traditional paid marketing. So this is a very, very focused campaign linking a TV ad to an online campaign and ultimately to results. And then the third example is around what would look like a very plain food product, but again, using extreme precise AI analysis of the customer data, they were able to almost double their sales on this product. So just coming to some conclusions, there are three things I wanted to say, and then we'll summarize. The first thing is that AI enables you to understand your customer and to personalize your offering to the market. And that is obviously something that couldn't be done before. It's obviously all about collecting the right data on your customer with the right permissions, and then thinking about how that enables you to change what you're selling. The second thing is that customer expectations in this space are going through the roof. So what people think is available and should be normal is growing dramatically. Amazon opened a drone delivery center in the UK last year, and it's already been doing test flights of drone-based deliveries. Now, everybody thought this was a joke when Amazon announced drones were going to be delivering things. They thought it was a marketing stunt, but it's not. There really are going to be drone-based deliveries soon, and there are already for medical purposes. So this is a great example of where things that we thought were kind of inconceivable a little while ago suddenly become expected by the consumer. And then the final thing is, what does this mean for each of us in the room and those in the world of marketing? Well, you know, I'm glad I don't have to stand in front of that board, but at the end of the day, AI is an extremely complex topic. And one of the reasons all these startups exist is because we can't all possibly become AI experts. That's never going to happen. So we need tools and we need partners, because we can't all become data scientists and AI experts. Now, we are all going to have to learn more. We're all going to have to learn the basics. We're going to have to learn how to use the tools. But thankfully, we won't have to learn how to do all that maths. So just in summary, the first thing is AI is not something that's happening in the future. It's happening now. A friend of mine was working with Kodak, famously, when they had the digital camera in the lab, and they were working on it for many, many years. And they were working on it, and they worked on it, and they worked on it, and they worked on it. And then suddenly they woke up one day, and people had digital cameras everywhere. Not Kodak cameras. They had digital cameras everywhere, and Kodak had completely missed the launch of the digital camera, even though they'd invested in it for many, many, many years. So don't miss AI coming on mainstream, because it really is happening now. The second thing is, in marketing, the number one thing, and you're going to hear about it from some great AI entrepreneurs later, is about understanding your customer and working out what can you do with that information to personalize and engage both marketing messengers, but also change the product. The third thing is that the customer's expectations are going to get higher and higher very quickly. So we're all playing a little bit of catch up with the hype curve. The fourth thing is, hopefully from these examples, is that you can see leaders are already doing some incredible things and gaining not just tactical advantage, they're gaining real strategic advantage, and we're seeing that across the board. And then finally, coming back to Minter's point from earlier, it's important to get ahead of the data privacy and ethics issues. When we collect all this data on people, even whether it's legal or not legal, or there's all kinds of legal issues, which is, one, obviously we need to, stay within the law, but the relationship you have with the consumer breaks down very quickly if they think you're doing something with their information that you shouldn't be doing. So, one, it's important to get ahead of it, and two, obviously, to obey the law. But in the AI ethics department, the final thing is, a lot of people do fear general intelligence. They think this is something that could suddenly take over and be a threat to us. And the truth is, we talk to the scientists all the time who are working on this, and they will tell you that it's somewhere between 3 and 12 research problems that have to be solved to really achieve general intelligence. And nobody knows how long that's going to take. Some people would say it's 20 years, some people say it's 50 years, some people say it's actually never going to happen. But in the short term, AI is really about augmenting what we all do today. Some people would say giving us superpowers, but it really is an extraordinary thing. It's happening right now, and I encourage you all to explore and get involved. We're going to hear from some great companies later on, and I'll be around later if anybody has any questions. We do publish a daily email that goes out to 11,000 people, and it's free, and you can find it on our website, which is cognitionx.com. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can just email me personally at charlie@cognitionx.io. and would be happy to talk to you about how you can apply AI. Thank you very much.